Now, the U.S. has surpassed 35 million coronavirus cases since the start of the pandemic, and that's where we pick it up this morning.
Yeah, health experts are predicting cases and hospitalizations will continue to rise as the Delta variant spreads and millions remain unvaccinated. Dr. Anthony Fauci says new lockdowns are unlikely, but he offered this assessment of what's to come.
I think we have enough of the percentage of people in the country, not enough to crush the outbreak, but I believe enough to not allow us to get into the situation we were in last winter. But things are going to get worse.
The situation is already getting worse at many hospitals across the country. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is in hard-hit Nebraska. NBC News reporter Vaughn Hilliard is in Florida, which is now leading the country in new cases. Good to have you both with us this morning. Shaq, let's start with you. You're outside a hospital in Omaha that has a 25-bed COVID unit. What are they seeing right now?
Well, just last week, Joe, that 25-bed COVID unit was actually full at capacity. They say that has tapered off a little bit, but they're continuing to see that increase in hospitalizations. And it's the same story that we've been talking about for weeks now. You have the increase in cases. And here in Omaha, you've been seeing a 140% increase in cases in just the past 2 weeks. That then leads to the increase in hospitalizations. And then those unfortunate stories of lives being lost. Here in Nebraska, there was a sheriff's deputy that passed away over the weekend. There was also a 20-year-old in Lincoln, Nebraska, that also lost his life to COVID-19. So that is the situation here. You have doctors continuing to say, push the vaccine, get that vaccine. That is what is going to eventually lead to the end of this surge. Joe?
And Vaughn, where you are in Florida on Friday, the state reported its highest one-day total in new cases since the start of the pandemic. Even though we now have a vaccine, what has the impact been on hospitals there in the Sunshine State?
Well, here in Florida, just overnight here, the AP is reporting the latest data from Florida to the Department of Health and Human Services is that they here in the state of Florida overnight broke the hospitalization record compared to any previous peak here. This is the fourth wave. And yet what you are seeing in cities like here in Jacksonville, this hospital, 165 COVID patients alone, but across the city of Jacksonville, you are seeing compared to the other highest hospitalization record to date here in the city, it's at 165% of what that previous record here is. That is the extent to which these medical officials are telling us that the Delta variant is running rampant among the unvaccinated and leading people to enter into these hospitals. And you said it, 100,000 new cases here across the United States on Friday. And we heard from Dr. Fauci just say yesterday it's only going to get worse. And we have heard that at a local level. You are seeing this number, when you are seeing that trajectory here, only escalate here. And yes, we've seen an uptick of some folks getting vaccinated at the same time. That isn't going to stop people from getting here infected in the immediate timeline.
You know, and all this begs the question, what are elected leaders doing about these rising cases? Shaq, Nebraska's governor is pushing back on CDC guidance when it comes to masking. Why is he doing that? And what is he trying to do to try and reduce the number of cases there?
Yeah, you heard really strong pushback against that CDC guidance last week from Governor Ricketts here in Nebraska. He's saying that Nebraska will not adopt that mask guidance. And he actually released a statement. I'll read a little bit from it right now. And he says that the CDC announcement only furthers the distrust that many have with the CDC and does not help to encourage more people to get the vaccines that are helping bring the pandemic to a conclusion. Over the weekend, he ended some of his emergency orders that you saw in place in the state of Nebraska. The governor pushing those vaccines and also emphasizing later in that statement that his expectation, despite the surge that you're seeing, his expectation once we get to the fall is that schools reopen fully for that in-person learning. Joe?
Vaughn, here is some reason for optimism. We're starting to see a rise in vaccination rates in some hot spots. What are you seeing there across the South?
Exactly. Going along with that correlation here, we're talking about 40 plus states that have doubled their number of COVID cases here over the last 2 weeks. At the same time, this is clearly leading to an influx of individuals coming to get their initial shots. We were over in nearby Georgia on Saturday at a drive-through line where we met Tia Rowe. I want to let you listen to my very question. You've had it available to you for months. Why now?
What took you these many months to finally decide to get the shot? Because I saw the cases are rising. I think because I've seen more people of my family and friends have taken it and they're okay. So that kind of like led me to think, okay, I could take it and I'll be okay.
The states of Alabama and Missouri, they have more than doubled their vaccination rate over the last 3 weeks. Here in the state of Florida, about 78% increase. In Texas, 66%. It's a step in the right direction, Joe.
Certainly is. We'll have to see how much more of a difference that can make. Shaq and Vaughn, thank you both for kicking us off this morning. We appreciate it.
The Delta variant is bringing up new concerns also for nursing homes. They were the sites of some of the deadliest outbreaks during the pandemic. Now there are new calls to get more workers in those nursing homes vaccinated. Here's NBC News correspondent Kathy Park.
Joe and Savannah, good morning to you both. As you know, nursing homes were once COVID hotspots, but with the Delta variant taking hold all across the country, health experts are sounding the alarm, saying that the vulnerable population living in these facilities are at risk once again. Worries over a dangerous and deadly repeat of COVID outbreaks at nursing homes and long-term care facilities as the Delta variant tightens its grip.
It's very scary. Are we going to go through this all over again?
In Mississippi, where infections are soaring, health officials say there have been outbreaks in 72 nursing homes. And according to a local health officer in Indiana, 7 residents died from the virus at an unidentified facility where less than half of the staff was vaccinated. Nationwide, more than 80% of residents in nursing homes are now fully vaccinated. Among staff, the number is around 58%. And experts worry the unvaccinated group will contribute to the spread.
And then, we have a frail elderly population who got vaccinated very early. They may have some waning immunity, and put all of that together, and there's really just very large vulnerability for nursing homes.
Jody Merritt has to get tested twice a week before visiting her 83-year-old mother at a Florida nursing home.
What is your biggest fear moving forward? They're going to go back to locking us out again. That was the most horrific year of my life. The isolation is the worst.
But the trends we're seeing now is a major shift from last year. The New York Times reporting that after vaccine rollouts from late December to early February, cases in nursing homes fell more than 80%, and the number of deaths dropped 65%. But back in Florida, growing challenges for people like Jody, caught in the vaccine divide.
It's frustrating because they don't realize that their behaviors are keeping us from our family members.
And just last week, 60 major health organizations signed a statement supporting a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers and those working in long-term care facilities. Savannah, Joe?
All right, Kathy Park, thank you so much.
A major milestone in the UK. Starting today, American visitors won't need to quarantine as long as they're fully vaccinated. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from London's Heathrow Airport. So, Matt, I'm guessing you've already seen some emotional arrivals there today. What's the mood like right now? What are travelers telling you?
Yeah, guys, good morning. I mean, you guys remember that movie, Love Actually, the opening when they were in Heathrow Airport and they're talking about everybody greeting each other? You saw the movie, I think. It was like that. It really was in real life. There was a lot of tears, a lot of emotions. We actually spoke with one young woman who's been living in the States. She's a British citizen. She's been there for 3 years and she hadn't seen her mom in that time. And she was so relieved to be back. Here's what she told us.
It's so overwhelming. I've been really on edge for the last couple of days. I didn't know what it was going to be like coming in, and like I said, we haven't seen each other in 3 years, so that was really overwhelming. But it's a really good feeling, and I'm home, and that feels so good.
And, that was just one of many. I mean, there really were a lot of really emotional scenes today. A lot of people who already had booked their tickets and they had been planning on doing that 10-day quarantine. And now they were just so relieved to not have to be stuck in a hotel. Some people who are on business trips who had been budgeting in that 10-day quarantine because they had to come to Britain. Now they say they're going to spend that time sightseeing. Guys?
Yeah, love the Love Actually reference there. It is important to note some requirements still exist for fully vaccinated visitors, including testing before and after arrival. But the rollback rules are still good news, and not just for travelers, but I understand for airlines. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, airlines everywhere have been suffering, but especially here, they've been suffering also from a lot of, they've been criticizing the government. The airlines felt, and a lot of the travel industry felt really singled out in terms of the restrictions that they had to endure throughout the pandemic. And as things have gotten better in the last couple of months, the travel industry here has been very, very vocal in their criticism of some of these lingering government restrictions. Now it seems the Delta variant, that really troubling new variant, that has silenced some of those critics. But it seems as though this was a big, big boom for the travel industry and for Heathrow itself, which is right behind me. We spoke with the CEO of Heathrow, and here's what he had to say.
Getting the US in particular reconnected to the UK is a massive step ahead for us. We're still not back to normal yet. We still have about 35 flights from the US a day. Normally we'd have about 120.
So, you know, they still got a long way to go. They're still going to be ramping up, scaling up all of those flights. But guys, it's not just the US, it's also the European Union, all with the exception of France. France, if you're coming from there, you still have to quarantine for a couple of days. That has enraged the French and caused something like a diplomatic rift between the UK and France. Guys?
And Matt, you mentioned the Delta variant. We know that things are getting worse here in the US. Where does the UK stand when it comes to new cases of COVID?
It's really interesting that you mentioned the Delta variant in the U.S. because here in the UK, scientists have been predicting that the Delta variant would tear through Britain, even as the government decided that they were going to be relaxing a lot of these restrictions in day-to-day life, not just in traveling. But instead, the numbers spiked and then went back down. And now they're hovering at about 24,000, 26,000 every single day. Much, much less than scientists had predicted around this time. Why did this happen? The scientists here are stumped. They don't know why, but it's a good thing for Americans to watch. It's an interesting development. Guys?
Definitely. All right, Matt Bradley. Matt, thanks so much.
NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joins us now. Good morning, Dr. Patel. Always great to have you. So do you think that traveling is safe for fully vaccinated Americans right now?
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. I do think it's safe within reason. I think you just heard, as Matt said, that you have to test, especially international travel. You have to be very careful about where you're going to and make sure the countries you're traveling to are obviously not going through their own surges, because that can pose a risk to you, even fully vaccinated. But I think the idea of testing both before and even on arrival is not a bad idea to stay safe. And of course, wearing masks, you don't have to have a CDC recommendation. You just need to use your common sense when you're traveling and in a congested space indoors.
Dr. Patel, we just heard Dr. Anthony Fauci say that things are going to get worse. I mean, that's obviously ominous, but what exactly does worse look like at this point, and can it be prevented?
Yeah, great question. So it can and can't be prevented. Here's the part that can be. We can start doing the things kind of as a community to wear the masks and also just be careful about going into, there are a lot of large indoor kind of venues that are still being filled. That is probably something worth reconsidering at the local level, or if you're an individual, don't go there. And then what can't be stopped, Savannah, is that we just heard from Vaughn in Florida, those curves that are going straight up, those still have to peak and then come down. And I think that's what Dr. Fauci is referencing. So that's what we can't really avoid, but we can do in other places where we can actually take individual community actions, and that can make a difference. By the way, we've seen this with previous surges. I hate to say that this looks a lot like previous surges. In many ways it does, and in many ways it doesn't, because this time it's largely with the unvaccinated. We just don't want it to continue for weeks and weeks. We're probably looking at 2 to 4 more weeks of this.
Right. Okay. So let's say right now you're listening and you are vaccinated. Let's talk about what a potential breakthrough case could mean for someone. First, of course, let's keep some important context here. It's only happening to a very small fraction of the millions who are fully vaccinated. But what do the symptoms look like for them, especially compared to someone who's not vaccinated? I mean, is it still safe to say here that you're probably going to get a mild illness if you were to experience a breakthrough case?
Yeah, Savannah, great question. So the majority of breakthrough cases, not just that I'm personally seeing, but that are nationwide and being reported, are very mild compared to unvaccinated people. We're talking, might be a congested nose, a runny nose, feeling just off in some places. But don't be mistaken, though, Savannah, there are breakthrough cases I've seen that have full-on fevers, the cough that was very traditional, and that loss of sense and smell and taste. So when in doubt, you need to just try to get tested. And remember, most breakthrough infections don't have any symptoms in the beginning whatsoever.
Really important reminder there to still get tested if you are feeling that's something that I think we're kind of slacking on a little bit there. All right, Dr. Kavita Patel, thank you so much. Great to see you.
Let's get a check on your morning news now. Weather.
This morning we have Janessa Webb with us. Hi, Janessa. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I'm here for the positive news. And, I'm all about the kind of chill and cool down that we are seeing across most of the East Coast. It was kind of a fall feel over the weekend, and that's what we're seeing this morning. You might need a light coat as you're stepping out. We're 51 days before the official start of fall, but we are actually seeing temperatures well below average. Also watching a little bit of a rain that's starting to form across the deep south into the southeast, and that will continue to pick up as we go into your Tuesday, even Wednesday afternoon. Minor flooding is possible across these areas from New Orleans all the way into the Carolinas. Tomorrow we'll watch for that flooding possibility across coastal areas of Charleston to the Raleigh-Durham area into Wilmington. So today, daytime highs, we are talking about upper 70s to lower 80s, guys. That's kind of a nice treat.
All right.
Janessa, thank you so much.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.